a special webinar focusing on information lifecycle management for enterprise applications, and especially having Angelique Gibson talk about what they have done at American Tire Distributors. So I wanted to introduce Angelique to everybody. Angelique Gibson is the Director of IT at American Tire Distributors, and she is responsible for all the IT services for application operations, security, and compliance. And Angelique had been responsible and instrumental in defining several strategic IT initiatives at American Tire Distributors, including the ILM strategy for enterprise applications, which is the focus of this session. And prior to joining American Tire Distributors, Angelique also held IT management roles at Stony Brook and Estee Lauder. So at this point of time, I'm very happy to have Angelique on this particular session. And thank you very much, Angelique, for doing this for all the OAUG participants. And at this point, I'll pass the call to you to get going on the case study.
Thank you, Raghu. As he mentioned, I'm with a company called American Tire Distributors, and we are located in Huntersville, North Carolina. We have over 2,500 employees, and we are almost reaching $3 billion in revenue. We're privately held. We service 80,000 retailers across the country. We have over 85 distribution centers. We have 750 delivery trucks on the road every day, and we have 4.8 million invoices. And we have over 7.5 million square feet of warehouse space. Just a brief history of a brief overview of what American Tire is. Our application environment for Oracle E-Business Suite is 11.5.10.2. We are running Oracle Database 11R1, and the size of that database is 5 terabytes. It's actually, we have it distributed across 5 rack nodes as well. We're running Red Hat 5.4 on HP Blade servers. We are writing to an XP 24K disk array, and we also have, that's for production, and then for our test dev, we're writing to an EMC NS480. We are growing at a very fast rate. We are actually opening 10 plus DCs in 2011. That really means that we're going to have about 10% data growth in our production instance. And then if you start to multiply that out for Site A and Site B, Site A being our local data center, Site B being disaster recovery, that's going to double the amount of disk space needed. Then we have 3 development environments and 2 test environments for Oracle eBiz. So that would be 5 additional replications of that instance for a total growth of 3.5 terabytes from those new DCs that we're adding on this year. Some of the challenges of data growth that some of you may be aware of is that the more data you add, the less performance you're getting out of your system. And what that means is you're going to have unhappy users. At least that's how it is for American Tire. Our phones start ringing when our performance starts to deteriorate. Also, storage is expensive. So the more data you have, the more storage costs your company has to pay for. Backups, the backups start to run longer. And if you need to recover in the nature of an event that would take place, your restore, getting the business back in operation, is going to take longer the more data that you have in your production environment. And then if you don't have an archiving solution or a data management solution, you're actually putting liability on your company for carrying data around too long. That could actually have a negative impact on the business. So it's good to stay in compliance and mitigate those legal risks. Also, if you have a lot of data, and one of our drivers for looking at archiving was we were going to be undergoing a migration from HP UX over to Linux. And the more data that you have in your production instance and a conversion of that nature, it only equals downtime. So the more data you have to migrate, the longer your outage will be. We also have a lot of projects going on here at American Tire with different initiatives with Oracle e-business stuff. For example, we just brought up a new instance for OIC. It's the commission module for Oracle. We have to, in the nature of doing those projects, our development teams are always requesting clones. So the larger your production instance is, the longer it takes to get that environment cloned. So those are some of the challenges that we've personally experienced. Our strategy for database archiving kind of stemmed out of going to Oracle e-business suite. American Tire was running a legacy COBOL application, and they did not have to worry about archiving because it was all flat files. And what they would do is purge those files at the end of the year. So they would start each year with empty production files. When Oracle e-business suite was implemented almost 8 years ago now, the due diligence was not done up front to define what the data policies were going to be and how to manage data growth in an ERP Oracle e-business suite. And with all the schemas that you have and the amount of data growth, there was no forward thinking there. So coming into it, it started as we added modules, and the biggest one was accounts receivable and order management and WMS. Those three were the pushing point to truly need an archiving solution for us. We needed to kind of get a hold of our data and manage it. So we sought out to archive our e-business suite to increase the performance because we were having severe performance degradation with the increased amount of modules we were adding to the instance. We were focusing on managing the amount of data that we had in our production instances as well as our test and dev instances. We also wanted to focus on how to really leverage the Tier 1 storage that we had, the XP24K. We wanted to be able to run as much production critical businesses on it as possible, which meant that we needed to move off some of the older data to really get the value back out of that storage. And then also for compliance, we wanted to define what our data policies needed to be and work with business to do that and then actually implement them. So the result of investing in a solution of database archiving, you'll have increased performance. You will lower your database maintenance. You will lower your cost for Tier 1 storage, faster clones as I've mentioned, and if you're looking to do any types of migrations, it will reduce your downtime as well. For ILM, when focusing on this, database archiving really allows you to sit and focus on defining what those data retention policies could be. It just drives focus towards that, which lowers your risk for compliance. Again, it reduces the storage costs and it's better use of the Tier 1 storage arrays. Other benefits of a database archiving solution could be based on the vendor that a company would select. Some of them have tools for data subsetting and masking and actually doing the clone management for you, which would be scripting out your clones and having it execute inside of this archiving solution. What to consider, partner versus vendor. We're always, here at American Tire, we're looking for long-term relationships with our vendors. And we don't want that a vendor type relationship. We want more of a partner, a strategic type relationship. So one of the biggest drivers for us in choosing the solution that we went with is we looked at a roadmap to say, where is this partner going to be? Are they in line with where Oracle's going with their e-business stack? And are they customer service focused? Are they going to care about American Tire and getting us archived successfully? So that was one of the biggest considerations that we had. Another one is, are they certified with Oracle e-business suite? If you're moving your production data out to a target instance, an archive instance, and you ever need to get that data back into production for whatever the reason, you want to be able to do that, and you want a certified partner who Oracle has partnered with to say, yes, they're a safe vendor to archive your data with. Visibility into the archived data through Oracle. If a user has to log into a separate application to view their Oracle eBiz data, that is a negative. That causes a negative perception with the user. It's not quality of customer service at that point, because you're forcing your end user to now log into yet another instance. Solix allows you to just switch your responsibility, and you can view current production data, whatever you currently have in your production instance, or you could switch responsibilities, and you could say, let me only view history. So now you're going to switch your view over to your archive database, and you're going to be pulling your view from that instance. Or you could do a merged responsibility, which actually unions the production database data with your archived instance, and you have a single view of both production and historical archive data. So that was significant to us as well for the user experience. Again, also leveraging the same technology that Oracle eBusiness has for responsibilities. So there's no additional administration for our system admins for Oracle eBusiness Suite. It's simply, adding a responsibility to a user, which my sysadmins are already used to doing. So there's no learning curve there. Ability to subset to test data. So even though I would like to carry a smaller amount of data in production, I even want less in my dev and test instances, which is only going to help me save on storage costs. It's going to help with, when you're trying to do small unit testing, performance there, clone cycles. It will decrease the time it takes to do clones, that sort of thing. So what we do is subset to one instance and then clone that instance to other instances, which is a smaller clone. And then also, with the Solix tool, you have the ability to auto-schedule clones. So you script out what your clone is, and then you put it in their scheduler, and it will do it auto for you. And the last thing that we considered was, what was the final archive format going to be? So once you decide that you want to archive off your archive instance for final archival, it goes into some sort of file format. So we considered, what would be the easiest way to get data back if we ever needed to, without having to have dependency on another company, a vendor, to get that data back. So we focused on XML. There's many other archiving solutions out there that, not many, but there are a few other archiving solutions out there, and their output, their final archiving format, is a binary proprietary format that if we ever needed to get it back in and we had a problem getting it back in, we would really be dependent on someone else to do that, where XML is universal and we could do it ourselves. Lessons learned. There are other options for archiving. You could possibly, if you chose to, do a hardware refresh to help with performance, or you could database tune to the end of your life. But those are not solutions. Those are very expensive Band-Aids, in my opinion, to a solution that only has a domino effect over the years. You can't keep up with data growth by just refreshing your hardware over and over. That would be too expensive. And there's only so much a developer can do to tune an instance, or a DBA for that matter. So I didn't really even consider those to be an option. Moving the data, getting the performance gains that way, and also having savings in storage costs for the drivers. Also, one of the biggest things when we implemented archiving, we partnered with our business, and when we went to the business to define what the data retention policies were going to be per module, so each business user was determining how long they wanted their data in production. So one business owner would say, I would like accounts payable for 3 years. AR would say 2 years. And the cycle went on. And we took their direction, because it's their data, and we put in the business rules to archive based on what they thought their data retention policy needed to be. What we found was it caused a lot of confusion once we implemented 2 modules, because if they were looking at one view of production data that only had 2 years worth of data, and they went to another module that was showing 3 years worth of data, they were getting confused about what responsibility they needed to be in, or how long the data was actually stored for this module. So we went back with the business, and we negotiated a fixed data retention across all eBusiness Suite. So the user never had to guess when they needed to be in archive mode, merge mode, or production mode, that they knew how much data was in production at all times across all modules. And that was huge for the user experience. Less is more. You know, the users were real fearful to archive their data, and they had this perception that they weren't going to get their data if, you know, we archived it for them. So we demonstrated through the archiving process that, yes, this is easy. Yes, you can switch responsibilities. And, you know, we first negotiated 2 years. Let's try to scale that down to even 12 months. So we kept negotiating back with the business to actually keep shrinking production, keep archiving more and more. So less is more. Less data in production equals more performance, more savings in storage costs, and a better user experience all the way around. And again, a partner, not a vendor. Are they on track with Oracle? Do they have a strategic relationship with Oracle? So is Oracle backing them? That was critical to us. Recommendations. This is not an IT initiative. This is a business and IT initiative. You can't set data retention policies and think that the business is either going to buy in or be happy with what you decide is best for them. It really needs to be a partnership between business and IT to have it be successful. Our approach was understanding where the largest sets of data was by module and where the biggest performance degradations had been. And, you know, when those 2 hit high, that's the modules we approached first, where the biggest performance degradations were and where the largest data sets were. We also wanted to pick a vendor, and we chose the vendor Solix for not only their archiving, but also the tools that they provide you. They have subsetting, the ability to do data masking if you have credit card type information or social security numbers, any type of data that you would need to mask. And then being flexible, being able to add in custom modules. We have over 500 customizations to the Oracle eBusiness Suite. So it was very important for us to be able to get those customizations into an archiving solution without it being an administration maintenance nightmare. And we've accomplished that with Solix. And again, the size of the vendor doesn't matter. It's about, are they customer focused and are they showing innovation? And that would be all. Questions and answers?
Yeah, we actually do have several lined up here. The first question is, what are your database sizes before archiving and after archiving?
Well, when we started archiving, we started that a year ago. Our instance at that time was 3 terabyte, and after we archived about a terabyte off, so that would have been about 2.5 terabytes.
All right. The second question is, apart from ILM, what is the major archive tool you have used?
That's it. We've only done. Are you referring to just for Oracle eBusiness Suite or email?
Let me see if I get an answer from the attendee who asked the question.
I mean, we use a data archiving tool, Solix, for Oracle eBusiness Suite. We have other solutions for email archiving, but it wouldn't pertain to Oracle eBusiness.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one then. Do your production DBOS platforms have to be the same archive for the DBOS platform?
No, it does not. You set up a target instance, and it archives to that instance. It's agnostic to the operating system. It's just looking for an Oracle database with its same Oracle eBiz install, so it can write to the same schema objects.
All right, another one. What is the percentage of archive data in your production database that has been moved to archive database?
I guess about 30%.
All right. Got a few more here. Does archiving help an eBusiness Suite upgrade strategy?
It does. You could, and how I see the benefit with that is we're doing an evaluation of going to R12, and how we envision using an archiving solution to help us is when we create and when we install Oracle eBusiness Suite R12 and we migrate our data into that instance for the first time, we can archive off all of our data into a target instance up to whatever our policy is, 2 years. So we'll only have 2 years worth of production data in production, and all of our historical data would already be pre-archived in the R12 instance, and we wouldn't have to worry about moving that data when we cut over to R12. So all of our historical archive data would be pre-upgraded. And then the migration time that the weekend we would migrate, it would reduce that migration time tremendously.
All right, excellent. After archiving, what's the percentage have you improved performance?
Honestly, it's not real tangible as far as percentages, but I have many examples of we had customers, the customer merge process. So people who are doing customer merges in your eBusiness Suite, those processes would run for over 8 hours, 12 hours. It would be never ending. And the problem with that is if you start to run into the business day, you're locking your customer accounts and your order header and lines when you're merging those records. So you pretty much can't take an order when the merge process is running. So we were very limited when we could run our customer merge process. Since we've archived, we have gotten that thing down to 1 minute. It's amazing the amount of performance, and we've had several successes along those lines with very long running batch jobs that have been reduced to minutes, just dramatically.
All right, we've got quite a few more coming in, so we'll just keep rolling here. If the data was archived, what was the approach for reporting on historical data from the application? Was it all through a data warehouse?
No, because it's in Oracle eBusiness Suite, you're still leveraging the Oracle responsibilities. You would run a canned Oracle report as that responsibility, the historical responsibility, and you're having the reports run off historical data. So there is no creating custom reports. You're using the seeded Oracle reports just in a different responsibility.
All right. Did the users have to switch back and forth in the archived data and current data? Was there a pushback from users to this?
You have the option. Again, you can run in current, which would be production. You could run in historics, which would be your archive instance, or there is a responsibility with Solix called merge. Merge joins them together, and it's bringing production and historical data together. The user has the option to run that way if they choose. The downside to the user is it's going to be slower than that if they were running in production or historical mode.
Right. After archiving, how soon have you seen full return on investment?
Well, we got the return on investment pretty much immediately because we had to go through that Linux migration. We went from HPUX to Linux, and we were looking at a 60-hour outage to migrate our data prior to archive, and we were able to get that down. We migrated our entire instance in 12 hours. So we reduced the migration very, significantly, that we were able to get it done in a weekend without actually having the business come offline during the business hours during the work week.
Can you provide some ballpark numbers on what the results were for your HW refresh and SQL tuning compared to the results after archiving?
I don't think that question really pertains to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
database provides some ILM capabilities, such as managing at table space level and so forth. Is metadata the key requirement to driving proper archiving policies and being able to identify right transactions that need to be archived?
Not if you're running Oracle E-Business Suite. Oracle E-Business Suite, it's all based on business rules, and doing ILM at the database level, you don't have the option to create business rules to drive what's being archived. So having a true data archiving solution that is business-centric, that you're able to build in your business rules, allows you, for example, to take the GL module and archive all transactions that are closed since X date. You can't do that at a database level.
How easy is it to justify ILM investment to management?
Very easy. If you're showing them, if you're able to move off your production environment, even half of it, to a tier 2 storage, that will cover the cost of an archiving solution if your instance is large enough. So between the cost savings and the performance gains, it's pretty easy to justify.
Okay. Do you recommend organizations to consider test data management or data subsetting along with archiving to get the best benefits and higher ROI?
Absolutely, because again, if you can, for clones, if you have multiple projects running, which American Tire does, that's putting heavier demands on clones. So if you can subset as opposed to doing a full production clone over, if you have the ability to subset, you're going to save costs on storage because your target instances for test and dev will be much smaller than production. So you're saving on disk space there. And also, if you're cloning to other instances off those subsets, your clones are faster, so your DBAs are doing more strategic initiatives as opposed to more maintenance type initiatives.
Okay. Any performance numbers, like how long it took to run a query or so before and after archiving?
I have a lot of examples. The AR statements, I gave the example with the customer merge process. Again, that was a query that ran for over 8 hours, and then we were able to get that down to a minute. And I know that seems extreme, but it is the truth. And then there's many examples of the AR statements we run for our customers at the end of the month. Those take up to 24 hours to run. We are running those now in 8 hours, so that was a very marked improvement with no SQL tuning. We have a lot of SQL queries that we do validations for, troubleshooting, a lot of business reports that have had marked improvement. So maybe a report ran in 10 minutes and now it's running in a minute. And again, it's important to stress we're getting massive performance improvement from moving the data. Our DBAs and our developers are not tuning the SQL, which we view as even more cost savings to us because we're having our key strategic people, developers and DBAs, working on strategic initiatives as opposed to focusing on SQL tuning.
Okay, a couple more here. Do you mask any data in non-production data, and do you have any recommendations around that?
We do not have the requirement right now to mask data, so I cannot speak to that.
All right. Do we need a lot of IT resources to manage archiving software, or is it easy to do with existing resources?
Our project had one dedicated resource. While we initially installed the product, set up the business rule, and launched it, that was a 3-month initiative, and it's now in the support of our DBAs. And what we do is we archive. We keep up to 24 months worth of data at once. That's the max amount of data we have in our instance is 24 months. And it's an accumulative. So what happens is at the beginning of the year, that sets our archiving. We do our archiving processing for 4 weeks, which archives the prior year, 2 years back worth of data. So for example, right now it's 2011, we start our archiving process in January, and that lasts through the end of January, and we're archiving 2009 data, which would tell us that we only have 12 months worth of data at that point in time. Then we don't archive again until next January, so we build up to 2 years worth of data, and then we archive again. So to answer the question, it was one resource to get the product installed, and then we don't really touch archiving again until the next January, and it's for 4 weeks, and it's setting up batch processes to run at night to archive that data. So it's a matter of checking to make sure it's scheduled and then validating the data in the morning.
All right. Does Oracle have an ILM tool? Was it evaluated against the other tools available in the market?
Well, inside of Oracle eBusiness Suite, there are some purge routines and things like that, but as far as I'm concerned, or as my knowledge takes me, I'm not sure of an actual solution that allows you to manage your archive data from Oracle. No.
All right, that is all the questions that I have had lined up, unless anyone else would like to send in additional questions at this point.